Sarah cursed. Here she was on the way to her first actual, real acting job. She'd been given a role, and she was ready to give a great performance in that role, and she was completely lost in the middle of the city. In her head, she could hear her ex, Mitchell, saying for the 473rd time that a GPS was a good investment. And she heard herself replying for the 473rd time that a good map and a little extra time were all an intelligent person needed. You don't need some computer voice yelping out monotone driving directions. Now, she cursed both of those voices, each for a different reason. Hi, I'm Neil A. Yeager, and today I'm reading from my novel, Non-Hollywood. If you're liking this audiobook, please hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot with YouTube's search algorithms. Helps me show up more. This is chapter 32, The First Real Acting Job. Another one of those LA things. When you're lost, you usually can't just pull over and look at a map because pulling over is an art in and of itself. A good parking space on a public street with no restrictions is a treasured thing. Folks prowl for a parking space in LA. They'd sell their sexual parts to little gray aliens in return for a good parking spot. So there is no such thing as casually pulling over. Add in the legendary Los Angeles traffic, and being lost turns into a seriously stressful event. And it naturally happens on days when, say getting lost could kill the first break of one's career. So she cursed again. She realized also that she was wasting perfectly good exasperation. She was on her way to this seriously serious event. She was on her way to commit suicide, for crying out loud. Well, to play a character who was committing suicide, she needed to save all of her exasperation for the film set. Of course, it was starting to look as though it didn't really matter. She was never going to find the location. She was ruining her career just as it started. The one way to go from being unknown to known in this business was to not show up for a film. Then everyone knows who you are, and no one would even consider hiring you. She might as well pack up and head back to white trucks! Ah, the white trucks. The splendid, lovely, plain old white trucks of the film industry. She took back every bad thing that she had ever said or thought about them. At this moment, there was nothing she loved more than a big, old, boring white truck. Sarah pulled into the lot where the white trucks were parked. The lot was next to a building which appeared to be some older apartments. A headset-wearing production assistant met her at her car. As the young man escorted her through the parking lot, Sarah looked around her. It seemed to actually be a bigger production than she would have thought. This was a non-union shoot, and her understanding of those was that they had no money and amounted to a crew of 3 with the director running around with a video camera. But this set actually looked, it looked like a movie set. There were lights and everything. A couple of the white trucks appeared to be grip trucks. There was a catering truck, bustling with activity. There was one of those portable restroom trailers, honey wagons, they're called in the business, she reminded herself. And then the two of them came to a stop in front of what appeared to be a makeup trailer. The PA was looking down at a call sheet and said, so you're playing... And here he stumbled a bit. Sarah got the feeling that he was a nice enough guy to feel embarrassed to utter the words ugly girl to a girl's face. And speaking of the ugly girl thing, she had mentioned to Mr. Grilled Cheese that she didn't like her character's name. She didn't mention that the character's name was Ugly Girl. No need to get into that. Just let him assume that it was, Veronica or something. Mr. Grilled Cheese had simply said, "Can't you ask them to change it?" And she had stood there, stunned that she hadn't thought of that rather obvious solution. It wasn't too late to change the character's name. She would simply ask the director if it could be changed. Simple. "Oh," said the PA, "this is the Suicide Girl. You've got the best scene in the film." "Thank you," said Sarah, and she thought Suicide Girl would actually be an acceptable character name. The PA continued, Yeah, I actually read the script the morning I got here. Usually I don't get to, being just a PA and all, but there was a copy just sitting there and the UPM didn't have a task for me yet, so Sarah wasn't exactly sure what UPM stood for, but she assumed it was one of those crew things and not some bondage discipline or something. She said, that's great. I would think that not reading the script would make your job harder. My job? Not really. I'm basically a gopher, so I don't really need to know the actual story that the film's telling, but I like to. I'm hoping to direct someday. Sarah said, I have this friend who says that in this business, you should never hope for anything. You have to say that you are definitely going to do it or it'll never happen. Actually, his exact quote is, "Hope is for losers." That's probably true, he said. Probably true. What? He practically yelled. It's a big, pink thing. What do you think it was? Sarah turned to the PA with a start. He held out his hands and said loudly, "Big and pink. You've seen the prop list. What the hell do you think it is?" And Sarah realized, with a blush, that he was talking to someone over the headset. "Don't ask me," he continued. "Ask Roger. He's the prop master. Jesus." Then the PA turned back toward Sarah and said, sorry about that. Here we are, wardrobe/makeup. Tell Clarissa that I'll be back to pick you up in 1 hour and 10 minutes. 1 hour and 10 minutes. What? Say that again? 1 hour and... The PA shook his head at her. She just got here. She hasn't been to... Okay. Well, Sarah, they want you on the set, so I guess we'll come back here later. Sarah followed the PA into the building. They went up the stairs and down a hallway which was snaked with electrical cables until they arrived at apartment 210, which was filled with giant lights and several people. Standing beside the camera was the director. The man had both hands clenched in his hair and was pulling. Of course, Sarah had heard the expression "pulling your hair out" before, but until now she had never seen a real-life example of it. The PA caught the director's eye and said, I've got Sarah here. The director looked at her without releasing his hair. "Oh, good. Sarah, it's good to see you again. Look, we don't have as much time at this location as we thought. So the scene we were going to shoot before yours, we're moving to a different location. We're also going to move the suicide scene to another location and shoot that next week. But we're going to shoot your speech here real quick." "Oh," she replied, sure, I'll just run back down to wardrobe. How much time?" Now? Now? I haven't been to wardrobe yet. What you're wearing is fine." The PA jumped in with, wait, what about makeup?" "Makeup?" said the director, his hair still clenched in his hands. "She's playing the ugly girl. What the hell does she need makeup for? Look, Sarah, I've got like 5 minutes before we get kicked out of here. Can you do the scene or not?" "Yes," Sarah said. Yes, of course. Good. Everybody take your places. We're just going to shoot this. Sarah, you stand right here. That's your mark. Don't move. You stay right there, and we're going to slowly move in on you, okay?" "Okay," said Sarah. Before she knew it, the crew called out their various mysterious commands. Someone snapped a slate in front of her face, and the director shouted, "Action!" And she did it. "Cut!" yelled the director. That was great, Sarah. That was great. Thank you. Okay, everybody, we're moving on. That's a wrap for this location." The crew began to scurry about as Sarah stood in her same spot. "That's it?" she asked. The PA replied, "That's it." He escorted her back down the cable-strewn hallway, down the stairs, and out to her car. As Sarah started the car, the clock caught her eye. Her first professional gig had lasted all of 9 minutes.